to the Infrastructure, Transport and Environment Committee items. Item 8, Randall Street Renewal Project. And I was going to invite Pauline to introduce this, but she seems to have disappeared at exactly the wrong moment. So we'll maybe come back to 8 and 9 once Pauline's back in the room. Let's now then move to item 10, the review of the Marine and River Facilities Bylaw. And we have some additions to this resolution which are highlighted in yellow. I'm going to get Dave to introduce this item, and Dave, I understand that you've got some background to these items that are in yellow as well that you'll be able to explain to us.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Essentially here today we're conducting a review of the Marine and Facilities Bylaw of 2008 and proposing to replace it with the Marine, River and Lakes Facilities Bylaw 2017. So staff have conducted a Section 155 analysis as required under the Local Government Act, and essentially today we're being asked to adopt a replacement bylaw for public consultation. Essentially there are a number of changes from the current bylaw, and they generally loosely fit around commercial use of facilities, vehicles on wharves, time limits for mooring of vessels, and some other less significant effects such as signage, refuelling, storage of facilities, fishing off some of these things. Most of these provisions relate to perhaps 3 or 4 of our principal wharves in the area, notably the Akaroa Wharf, Daly's Wharf at Akaroa, and the Diamond Harbour Wharf are the ones that it's sort of principally aligned to. There was a bit of consideration in our regulatory performance committee meeting the other day about the definitions of some of the facilities, particularly in the inner city, where we were looking at council structures along waterways in the central city, and staff have provided an update on some of those in Section 5 of the recommendation. So I think it's pretty straightforward. And perhaps staff will ask some more detailed questions if need be, but the principal thing is today we're not actually adopting the bylaw, we're actually adopting it for public consultation, and depending on what responses come back from public consultation, a final draft would then be presented to council for approval.
So the effect of these yellow changes is to include seawalls, or is to exclude seawalls, to include seawalls.
So seawall stays there. Sorry.
Seawall stays.
But it's just when we were looking at the boardwalks and viewing platforms, it wasn't clear if places that we were intending to be covered by this, such as the Oxford Steps and the boardwalk at Watermark next to Antigua boat sheds, that don't specifically provide access to the water, you wouldn't necessarily be going into them. We're still keen, you know, there's eels in the area, that kind of thing. We're still keen to have those covered by the bylaw. So that's why the addition of the phrase of alongside or partially in the river or lake was included, to make sure that those particular structures would be included in the bylaw.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Great, okay. So thank you very much indeed, Dave, for the introduction. Are there any questions of staff on these matters? Mike.
Sorry, I do have a quick question, because I understand, you know, that those were originally excluded, and I can see why you'd take those off that list, but why not seawalls? Because why don't we, if we're creating a bylaw, actually make sure it works for any future issues in terms of potential nuisance from people fishing off these seawalls along the likes of Beachville Road?
The no fishing clause that is proposed in the bylaw only relates to the central city river area, so it's not related to all different areas. But are you referring to the nuisance issues created by fishing generally?
Well, potentially. So if we create a bylaw, obviously we want to make sure it is future-proofed what could potentially happen. And we see what happens on the pier, and obviously that's outside of the districts. We can't put this bylaw to it, but who knows what might happen to those seawalls if a lot of people start fishing off them. So that creates a nuisance, and potentially if we exclude seawalls, then we just miss that opportunity to capture that.
No, I mean, it was really a policy decision about the seawalls, which we'd had in discussion with the parks unit. So we'd probably need to go back and check with them on the seawalls point. There hasn't been any identified problems at the moment, as far as I'm aware, about seawalls, which is what we're supposed to do with the bylaw, is identify the perceived problems and then address them through a bylaw clause. So no one had actually raised any problems with the seawalls, and the parks unit, as I understand it, had said don't include them.
Yeah. So if there were a proposal, as Mike's suggesting, to include seawalls, in order for them to be included, we would need to have an issue which a bylaw was reasonably expected to deal with. We don't have such an issue, therefore that would be the argument against, or that would be the advice against including them.
Yeah, well, that's the position now. Yeah, that we, as far as I'm aware, we didn't have any. Yeah,
no,
we're
not aware of any issues occurring at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Phil. All right. Any further questions? All right. So, Dave, you're happy to move this? And Jamie's happy to second. Is there any debate? All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you.